I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Start off with the public forum. Anybody got any public comments? Anybody online? Anybody in the room? Seeing none. Close it. Move on to agenda approval. Is there any additions, alterations? All right. Seeing none, go ahead and approve the agenda. Move on to administrative business.
First, we have the minutes of January 31st.
Everybody got a chance to read the minutes? Corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion, is that a second? Dave? Was that a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Motion by Kent, second by Dave. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0.
The only other thing I have, Durham Park Township Board, they, Gordon Christensen, they have a vacant position on the trustee, as a trustee. And so the way that is done, if they can find someone who's interested in it, then you guys have to appoint them. So, Ken Chisholm,
K-E-M.
Kim Chisholm is willing to serve on that as the trustee, if you guys would be willing to appoint him.
So moved.
Motion to approve Kim Chisholm. Township Board.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, in your packet, you do have the, my February 3rd report. Progress on several of our projects. Just want to highlight also that the Department on Aging, Lou Turk has been certified now to assist with the income tax preparation, which was a goal that she had from last year, so she is now able to do that. And I think she's accepting appointments beginning February 18th. Let's see. Does anybody have questions about anything in the report? We were approved for, Marion Planning Commission recommends approval of our conditional use permit application to utilize that north vacant lot for parking that we purchased. And so that just needs to go to the city council. And once they approve that, then we will be able to move forward with developing that area. In your packet, you had some comments, written comments from Steve Schmidt, which I guess I should have mentioned during public comment. He would want that to be part of, just noted that that was submitted as a public comment.
That notice, I didn't see it on the front.
Signage for the dock.
Okay. There was also other information in your packet. which we can discuss when you are ready to do that. But you had asked for information about the difference between Capers and KPNF and what it would potentially cost to make a change that would be open only to law enforcement, EMS. I still need to get clarification whether jailers are included in that, so I haven't asked specifically about them. I did prepare estimates utilizing, including the jailers. And then, so that's, the information on that is in your packet, the comparison, the rates, those rates listed, it shows what the county pays for Capers versus KPNF, and then what the employee pays. And it also, just keep in mind, the rates for the next budget year are not yet known, so it could potentially be slightly higher for each one of those programs, if that makes sense. You can only affiliate January 1st of any year, so if that's a change that the commission decides that they want to do, it would it'd be effective on January 1st. So whatever decision is made would need to be made and budgeted for, and then it would take effect on January 1st of any calendar year. It's irrevocable. Once you decide to do it, you can't go back. It is, as you have been hearing, I know the commission has been hearing that this is kind of a theme across all agencies recently, that, the majority of them are a lot of the agencies around us are utilizing KPNF for those professions. What else? I did send you a budget estimate, I think on Saturday, which I did not have in time for the packet. Did you receive that? Did you? Please, thank you, I didn't print that out. So the way that I figured this included all the, like, sheriff's office personnel, corrections, and ambulance. And so it's probably a higher estimate than what would actually be included, because I did not separate out office staff, or I did not get clarification yet on the corrections officers, but it looks like the increase for 1 year would be just under $300,000 to change that retirement plan. So, does anybody have questions about that at this time?
The difference on that KPNF tier 1 or 2 is just service length, is that what I understand?
I didn't look in depth into that, but so I do know that when an agency affiliates with KPNF, they can either give credit for previous service, which means it would cost a lot more because we would have to contribute on.
Military time and all can be bought back or something, just like Capers, I would assume, possibly.
Times in another agency where they were on, that, or past time potentially in your agency where they were on Capers instead of KPNF, I think you can elect to purchase, like, to credit that, and then you would have to pay for that. And so I haven't had a chance to get in depth on this. This is just the basic information that I have right now. And I would say that it would be probably pretty cost prohibitive to go back and do that. But if the commission decides to make this affiliation, potentially you would be looking at from that time forward. So anyway, I can get more information on that, and I will.
No,
like I said,
My dad's military time, he bought it back.
Right, so there's an option.
I'm just assuming it will be the same here, so at what price or what?
Right, that's a different thing though. So in Capers and in KPNF.
I think that's the individual's right to buy that back to add to their retirement.
Right, that they can't, not
I
after.
it would cost us, but that can be added if I remember.
I didn't understand what you said, I'm sorry.
I think they can add it, but it's pretty much at the individual's cost, not can be our cost.
Right, but there is, yes, so prior purchase prior service credit can be purchased by individuals. They can do that in capers also. And it pertains to certain types of service and some military services included in that. And that is at the employee's cost. And they can do that through payroll deduction. They basically pay double or triple the amount that they normally would pay to be able to get that service credit. But what I'm talking about.
It's also available through KPNF to do that.
I assume so. What I was talking about though is something different, would be if the county decides that they want to affiliate with KPNF and then also, they can either do it from that date forward for those qualifying employees, or there is an option, which I have not researched yet, where you can go back and offer to pay for the prior credit, like the prior service, to transfer all of those years into KPNF, which would be more expensive for the county because that would not be on the individual. That would be on the county.
I mean, just making the move, itself would be a pill to swallow, especially at budget time.
300 grand.
Yeah, it's $1.5 million.
Right. Now, there might be ways to fund that. There are ways to fund that. I have a few things in mind, but I'm not ready to put that on paper. I haven't put it on paper yet, so I'm not really ready to share that.
Got a question?
Yeah.
Are the rest of the county employees eligible for this?
No.
So it's not gonna create, okay.
Right. The only ones that are eligible are law enforcement and EMS.
And then if you had county fire,
Yeah,
Well, they're their own entities, so that would not be through us.
if we had county fire.
let's see if
Right.
it's snowball.
So they could do that on their, if they are affiliating with it on their own. Most of our, if not all, our departments are volunteers, so. All right, any other questions?
Something, I mean, anybody dead set against this? I don't wanna waste staff time looking up and researching it if it's not a real possibility.
No, I think we, I realize that the more populated counties with the big services are moving toward this. But, it seems to me like the smaller departments now have, know about it, everybody's gonna want it. What are the smaller counties gonna do? I mean, you're gonna have to look at it through the budget process and you're adding several mills. So right now,
Need to look at it.
maybe at budget time if we revisit it.
Well, it's,
But I hate to-
we'd have to do it at budget time,
Yeah, but I mean.
if it's not a real possibility, if you're
take,
dead set against it, I'd like to know it now.
To take all this time trying to gather the data and crunch the numbers is gonna take quite a bit more time.
I would rather do it now than wait and try to push that all through I'd rather try to do the research now and try to do it in a week at budget time. So,
Any other feelings?
I mean, I just wanna know how we're gonna absorb that $300,000, what are we gonna cut to absorb that? I mean, are there positions?
that's
If
part of the research, I
we
think.
can find that, you're okay with moving forward?
If we can, yeah, I'm okay with moving forward with it. I mean, I dealt with this issue in the past and
I think we're gonna have to do it sooner or later.
sooner or later, but
Um,
we need to find that, do it at a no increase in cost to the county.
Tina's comment that she will be able to give us some ideas where to fund this, is that what you're saying in the future? If we continue to pursue this? That's where I think if we get that knowledge or information of where or how it would be beneficial in making whether we do it this year or kick it down the can another year, but we'll still need that up front ahead of budget, just like you're saying. if and when she gets time to put that together.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't hear opposition, and then we're doing all this for nothing. So it sounds like we're still.
So continue to look into it. Okay. Okay. Let me see, what else did I have? Okay, I think that's all I have at the moment. I did put a background memo in your packet, about the issue with the equipment storage for emergency management, kind of where we are now, and specifics about the lease I would like to discuss with the board under contract negotiation, and then we can come out and talk about it in open.
I just have one question on that. The AMPI building, they're getting ready to, that's what they're gonna tear down to build a new fire station.
Yeah, it would not be a long-term solution, it would be short-term.
There was a comment that there would be some,
Yeah, there would be a need for us to do some, to put some money into the building to get it to where we could utilize it appropriately, and that would be on us to do that. Is that what you were going?
yeah, I just don't know, I don't know what we're storing over there. What you're talking about as far as, I mean, if it's $100 fix, that's one thing, $5,000 fix, you know, are we?
So I can get into that a little bit. We would need to potentially replace the garage door and put a garage door opener on. There is some electrical work that would need to be potentially done inside the space. And then the ramp going up to the building is just like a kind of a narrow gravel path right now. And there is some, the area where we would have to access it from is basically grass. I mean, it's not ideal for emergency response. So we would have to do some work on the lot and a little bit within the building. And the space itself is a little bit like you go into it, but then the space that we would utilize is offset from the garage door. So there would be maneuvering involved with the trailers. And so it's not necessarily the greatest solution. But it would be still, depending on how long we stay there, it would be still a savings from what we're doing now, which the board was interested in at the time, so.
Well, other option is renegotiating our lease we have right now.
Building a building on a new parking lot.
Well, that's down the road.
So, did you have other? So we're storing, I believe, a light trailer, some big generators, our command trailer, and then we have right now there's a big dually pickup that has the portable communications tower. That is a regional asset for Homeland Security in this region. Marion County took possession of that. It's been quite a long time ago, like in 2007, something like that. I was gonna say maybe 2009, I don't really remember, but I haven't looked at that recently. But right now, the actual trailer, the tower, there's a malfunction with it, so we are not able to raise the tower at this time. And I think that Marcy has done some research on trying to maybe turn that back over to the region, but nobody can find any paperwork from when we got it. Through transition and staff in that department, the trail has been lost a little bit. So that's where we are with that.
The bridge has been using it too.
Oh, the space that we have now, yeah, they have a couple of pieces of equipment parked over there. And it is fenced, with us just having, it has, the space that we're in now is
Secure.
yeah, so that's another thing that isn't even addressed on the lease or that we haven't really talked about is who would have access to the building if we move into the other space, how we get access and like control access to our area, so.
Our best option is renegotiate the lease.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we can come back to that, cause you're gonna need an executive for a contract
Yes, yes,
negotiation. We're gonna have a contract negotiation over here, so.
right, exactly, that's the one that I put there, so,
Okay, fire chiefs.
Yep,
So we
great.
can stay on schedule.
yep.
Lester.
You see, you pointed at me. I was sitting up front.
That's the new hot seat, right here.
Go ahead. Thanks. Afternoon, Commissioners. You've all had a chance to review the burn resolution. I brought with me the public forum comments that we used to change this. There was one thing we discussed amongst ourselves. If you look on section 2, paragraph 5, the concern about the emergency manager discussing with the fire chiefs prior to issuing a burn resolution. In talking with the burn committee, we agreed that Marcy does that anyway, as it is. Mr. Dirks brought up at the meeting his concern that maybe in the future we might have a director that might not work as well with the fire chiefs as Marcy does. So that might be a good thing to have in there. So section 2, paragraph 5 was changed to the new wording. Section 3, paragraph 5, however, was not. That is the original wording. I left that in there so you could see the comparisons in that. Other than that, as this is submitted to you for approval, it is as the fire chiefs burn resolution committee to include one from the public and the open forum that we had at the county lake. This is the final product from that. So I will entertain questions, comments, concerns. But if you are happy with this, we would like you to have this pushed forward to, I believe it will go to you, Mr. Jantz,
I've already reviewed it, so I think we're kind of at the point of.
if it is, then it would be ready to be put into legalese. I'm not an attorney, so basically I use the existing resolution to put in there what we wanted and the protection that we wanted for the chiefs. And Chris and Ben, Chris Killo, Marion Fire Chief, Ben Steckity, Hillsborough's Fire Chief, they were part of the burn resolution committee. So if I've missed anything or if there's any comments, please. Oh, Nathan, I didn't see you back there. You snuck in.
Hide, you were good.
Okay, no, darn it. Okay, and Nathan with District 3 over Ramona. So if there's anything that I have missed or anything you would like to add, feel free to. So, but that, at this point, we'll entertain questions or comments.
I'm a little bit on that item number, with 120 minutes notification of the intent to burn within 120 minutes prior to the ignition of the fire. Does that mean you call in 120 minutes early?
You have,
2 hours early?
yes, you have to call in
So
within that 2-hour frame.
if they
This is,
approve it, can you just go ahead and light it?
yes,
Okay.
that is the minimum. So,
You don't have to wait full 2 hours.
right, and basically what it is in that 120 minutes, there could be weather change. So if you hit 125 minutes, you have to recall dispatch and re-advise them that you missed your ignition time and you're adjusting your ignition time. And like I say, that did not change from the existing or the original burn resolution.
Right.
What can I add to that? What that allows is if there's 6 or 7 crew members that you're gathering, landowners or farmers are working together, they can go ahead and get that approval instead of wasting everybody's time and say, hey, the conditions are not good, and having them all show up. That gives you a little time to pre-plan, get your approval, then I'm gonna call my guys and get them ready to come over to help burn.
The other thing that does is if you're moving out into a field somewhere or an area where you may not have signal, you can call from a place that you have signal, then you can go ahead and make movement to where your burn's gonna be.
My other question is on the traffic hazard for smoke. If you know that there's gonna be smoke going over a roadway, even if it's just a secondary road, are you gonna have to have a sheriff's deputy out there?
That will probably be left up to the sheriff when you call. If you feel that you're gonna have a roadway issue, you might let dispatch know, hey, we may have smoke over the road. How would you like us to handle that? They might allow you to put, to have someone positioned out there. I know a lot of the farmers will do that and take care of that themselves. Now, the main areas that we're gonna be worried about probably on that is gonna be major roadways.
Right.
Also around airports. Those are the two main concern areas that they would have.
Cause I know when you go from east, the giant pastures, to west, the smaller pastures,
You're gonna have,
that grass is gonna have smoke over roadways. I mean, mostly secondary
Right.
type roads.
and basically, like I say, if you let dispatch know of that, and they will probably be able to work that out.
One thing I noticed on the resolution in regard to that is in what, we're saying you shall not cause visual impairment to a roadway, and then it says, but if you do, make sure dispatch knows. I think that language needs to be cleaned up.
Okay, and like I say,
that's okay.
not the attorney, so I just,
Yeah,
this
that
is our
is just something
concern.
I noticed,
I
because
think what
we're.
that means is if you shall not means that you don't do it, but if wind switches or something against what you've pre-planned, then
Let
at that
dispatch
point,
know.
we need to call in and make a.
I understand, I just think that the language for legal purposes probably needs to be tidied up a little.
So EMS, or the Emergency Management Director, has to notify Marion County Commissioners as soon as practical if they deem fit to shut down burning, but the fire chiefs don't want that.
Usually if we're going to do it, it's gonna be an on the fly, we're in the middle of something like that. We've never had to notify the commissioners before. As the authority having jurisdiction for our area, we're authorized to do that. As it was put in the previous, that's where, if I remember correctly, that was in our previous resolution, so we just carried that forward. The same way with emergency management. The concern was, again, if we had an emergency manager that maybe didn't work so well, that they always let the commission know because it's an action that they would take. So, Chris, you had something to say on that?
The thought I had, the way I understood the question was, I have shut off burning in my area before. We were at a wreck. Almost all my resources were involved in mitigating that wreck, getting the people, all that. And they wanted to call control, they wanted to have a control burn, and I asked them to hold all control burns in my area till my people were freed up and my trucks were freed up. And I mean, that was like an hour at the most, I think is what it was. And then after that, after we're done there, yeah, go ahead. Because, I mean, it was a just in case thing, because you never know when something will get out of hand. But all my resources were taken. And I went through dispatch for that.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a workflow thing that is automatically with
Okay, so maybe I
dispatch.
misunderstood the question.
Well, I'm just explaining to the
Okay.
board, reiterating what you said, that is already in place because you are working through dispatch. And the commission doesn't always get notified of those day-to-day adjustments.
And maybe instead of saying imposing a burn ban, which has a certain connotation to the term, say, they have the authority to
Are you in section 2, paragraph 5, is that what you're reading, sir?
5-6, aren't you?
Section 6,
Okay.
paragraph 6. Rather than imposing a burn ban, put a temporary halt to prescribe burning, or to just a pause on issuing burn permits until such emergency has been rectified or whatever, instead of, I mean, to me, the imposing a burn ban has a different connotation than limiting burn permits.
Is that something that, do we need to make that correction, or can you make that correction?
To make that, that's what I'm typing up right now.
I mean,
Thank you.
I wonder, because burn ban is language everybody understands.
Understand, that's.
You know, I mean, everybody, if it's burn ban, you can't burn. If you say we're gonna restrict burning permits, does that mean I have to get a permit? Because we don't issue permits. Does that mean I have to get a permit? I have to wait until I can get permission? Or, I mean, exactly how do you want that?
Well, that's what this resolution says, is that you have to get a permit before you can burn.
No,
Where it says that?
it doesn't say that anywhere in this.
Prior to such burning, dispatcher, Marion County Sheriff's Office notify the intent to burn, blah, 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 an event. The new call must place, verify the intent and permissibility to burn before ignition takes place. So you're saying that you're not, by having to call in, you're not issuing permission.
We do not issue burn permits, we do not issue permission. When you call in, you speak with dispatch will take a look at the grassland danger index, and if it is within the requirements or within the criteria to allow burning, they will advise the individual that they are authorized to burn. If it is outside said criteria, then they will advise the individual that they are not authorized to burn, based on this resolution.
So they are granting permission, but it's not an actual permit.
Right, that might be the
That'd be the
confusion.
easy
You're
one,
getting
yeah.
permission, you're being permitted to burn, but there's no document.
It's not a piece of paper.
Issued.
No.
Right.
But I don't think there's any issue with trying to clean that language up a little bit.
In the scenario I was talking about, I basically imposed a burn ban on my coverage area.
For an
I
hour.
mean, but
Yeah, and that's, and I've done that before too. We've had, 2 fires going at the same time, and dispatch stop all burning in my area. No one's burning until I give you authorization. So basically, I'm doing the same thing, I'm issuing a burn ban. I guess it's just a standard terminology that we're used to using.
Well, you're right, people understand burn ban, I mean, don't light a fire.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
All of you don't question anything that you guys are trying to do. It's just, I could see it. Somebody was into a chief's position, just decided, hey, I don't wanna do a fire, so I'm putting on a burn ban. What limits that?
Basically, if you read the terminology, or read the deal, the fire chief of each fire district, municipality, and or contractor fire protection or township shall have the authority to impose a burn ban in their district or area of responsibility when they deem it necessary. So, during a state of immediate emergency, no burning will be allowed in said district, municipality, contractor fire protection district, or township under any circumstances. This ban shall remain in force until lifted by the fire chief of said district or their authorized agent. So basically, if, before I can impose a burn ban, I have to have a reason. It's just not, I woke up today and I don't wanna deal with fire. Based on this, I have to have, is there a reason that I'm doing it? I've got 2 fires going right now, I've got all of my trucks out, Marion's out on 3 fires, so yeah, right now, till we get a handle on this stuff, nobody's burning.
I don't wanna question you guys, I know all of you, I know you're not dictators. Yeah, but my question is, if there was one, a dictator, how would you be able to, would it be the Fire Chiefs Association be able to override something.
At this point,
No,
no, at this point, people I answer to is the city of Marion and then in an offhand way, the townships around me, where they have a say in how my department is run also. So, I mean, it would be a lagging, it would come afterwards, after people say what happened, and they would say, well, Chris did this, and Chris did that, and then they'd get rid of me.
And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying any of you guys.
Right,
are
I'm just saying, it,
I understand, but it's
It's
downrange
happening.
sometime. If
It's
we
happened in other counties. I know where you're coming
Understandable.
from.
there's no established criteria that I know of, other than the chief's judgment.
And that's basically, you know, the way we built it, but we would like to think that by the time you attain, you know, the rank of an assistant chief or a fire chief, that you have basically the respect or the, what's the word I'm looking for here?
well, the understanding of the
The
power that you
understanding of-
wield.
yes, of
you
what
know,
would happen.
Especially in this situation, you know, you have to have that knowledge that we serve the public, you know, and that people have, you know, they have a need to be able to burn. And we also have to have a need to be able to keep our people safe and our equipment safe. And so we have to be able to say, look, it's not safe for us to allow you to burn right now. But as soon as it is, then you can. But you
I'm
have,
all for you being
yeah,
able
you
to
just
stay.
have to be able to, the chief has to have that authority.
Okay,
And if he doesn't, then
And his board is usually gonna be, I mean, you're usually gonna have the respect or the ability from your board that they're gonna, you know, that if you do come out and do something against this, that they're going to, you know, one of two things, they're gonna come down on you, they're gonna censure you, or they're going to, you know, replace you or something like that.
So the problem would come is if, okay, say, I have more resources than, say, Ramona or somewhere. Okay, so if you set a criteria that it has to be this bad before you can shut it off, well, Ramona would, if you had something like that up in Ramona, they would be overwhelmed already. And I would still be able to, you know,
To handle a situation.
be able to have enough resources to handle the situation without having to shut it off.
And I want to be really clear. I'm not
Oh, I understand.
questioning
Oh, I understand.
a fire chief that says, we need a burn ban. I don't question that. The thing is, if.
How do we do it in the future?
right, and I take your point, Joe.
I do too. That's-
Because, but, yeah, how would you
How do we word that
how would you
though?
list
I mean,
out those criteria that would make it
yeah,
so? Because just like what
Without-
Chris said, we
you
all
know,
have
without drilling way down into it, you know, cause you would have to have there again, you're gonna look at manpower, you're going to look at equipment, you're gonna look at terrain, you're gonna look at a lot of this. And with us having 12 different departments in the county, we could possibly end up with 12 different sets of criteria.
Because all with different capabilities.
Yeah, and the terrain that, say, Gossel's dealing with is a lot different than what I'm dealing with. So the variables change.
And my only point is, we're asking the emergency manager to notify the commission. Can we not have you guys notify us as to why? I mean, it doesn't have to be right then. I mean, we're a phone call away. All I'm asking is there a way that you can let us know what's going on so that when we get calls, why the heck won't they let me burn? I can say, well, this is why.
Okay.
That's,
I see your point.
That's fair, but in the heat of battle, we're not
Yeah.
gonna take time to.
And that's just it.
Post-incident.
Afterwards,
yes. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. we
But
can
by the
give you a reason.
time you would get that call, we're probably already back and released everybody to burn because my restriction on our burn, I'll use it for an example. I had 2 fires going. I was leaving one, had another one start. Marion had 1 going. And by the time I released it back to dispatch and said, hey, we can open burning up again, you know, we've got everything under control. It was probably an hour and 20 minutes
But
maybe.
you know, if we're gonna be talking to Marcy over the radio,
Yeah.
and we could just give her a quick, my resources
Can you
are
let
depleted.
the commission know?
Let the commissioners know
And that
that
might
that's
be-
why I'm putting the burn.
Would that be
ban, because our-
acceptable?
And that way, cause,
In the past, they just called the chairman. Marcy calls the chairman. And then that's up to the chairman to decide if he wants to let the rest of us know.
Like I'm saying, taking time to make a phone call.
But that's just.
That's the problem is I can't. Marcy provides that conduit that I need, that allows the broadcast to go across to everybody. If I go tell everybody, now I've got an illegal meeting. So I need Marcy to push that through to everybody.
Now, does she push it through to the entire commission?
That's to be determined. We need to have a discussion with Marcy on how we want that handled.
I've
But
never got a call from Marcy.
Okay, actually, I was curious, I wouldn't know, I do know that she notifies, that she notifies you all, but I'm not sure how that works. And that might be, like, say, we communicate with her on a regular basis on stuff like
and
that.
she's the bridge between a lot of departments, so.
And that might be the option that we have to use, is get it from her up to you guys.
Well, that's the simplest, cause that's one notification. You don't
And
have
we
to
can do
worry
it via
about
radio.
We can do it, yeah.
Notifications. I mean, you guys are the professionals. We need to trust what you wanna do.
Yeah.
And one thing that we can implement, like during the Fire Chiefs Association, is that if one is implemented during a heat of a battle, that we can review that and see, was it justified? Did we do
Sure.
it correctly? That's something that we can add. I was just thinking,
And that is, I mean, we can review
Peer
it.
review, yes.
Peer review system, we can build that in, that if there is, if there is issues, or even if we do it on everyone, hey, I instituted a burn ban because of
make
this.
sure that we're accountable, not we're
That
not.
way we're holding ourselves accountable under self-peer review.
If you want extra scrutiny, you can ask Marcy.
She'll tell you she's gonna roll it right back to us, so. Okay. I think we can play with that.
Like I said, I don't wanna come across, I just wanna make sure we.
I've seen it in other counties, what you're talking about, so I'm on board with you.
And just like we're adding language in case there's a different EM,
Right.
we can implement a system in case there's a different
From
chief.
chief, yeah. That he has to come before a peer review group and say, hey, so, okay.
That settles all. Mike?
Red up there, are those questions or?
Other comments, my comments, next comment I have is, I called in Monday, January 6th to burn a brush pile and had a foot of snow on the ground, and I was told that the fire danger was high, so I needed to stay with that fire until it was out. I realized that dispatch is doing what she's told. But all brush fires shall be attended from the time of ignition till such time as flame height is no greater than 6 to 12 inches. I brought this up to you at the public meeting back in December. So are all the municipalities that burn their brush piles, are they on board with staffing that until they burn down to 6 to 12 inches?
We have not even approached that portion of it because this is more on the ag burning and the brush piles falls under the ag. I'm not sure how that would relate to the city.
A brush pile is a brush pile.
I understand. So, and that's like.
City brush piles are KDHE regulated, I believe.
I believe
That is correct statement.
our burn pile
I
has.
know Marion's is.
Huh?
I know Marion's is.
We have that permit number there at our burn pile that KDHE issued for our burn site. So that may fall under KDHE. I'm not sure on that. And like I say.
One in Lincolnville is, I know the county lake just had to get it, was permitted for theirs just this past few months.
So I don't know if that would fall under
Restrictions.
KDHE's guys, to be honest with you.
Basically, it falls under the statutory scheme in chapters 12 through 15. That then delegates that's being regulated through KDHE.
Absolutely, I believe that's
And
correct.
so this is very different. What you guys are setting up here, very different than what occurs within the jurisdictional limits of a municipality for the same type of activity.
Okay.
That's regulated more intensely in some ways in terms of at least there being an entity at the state level that controls that. Here, it's this board that deals with it within the extraterritorial element of things, but within the municipalities, it's set up with a completely different regulatory environment.
And to be honest, like I say, I did not contact any of them to check. That was That was when it's on
So they don't have to comply with this, is what you're saying?
From what I'm understanding, that is.
Basically, if there's, well, to the extent that there's an overlap, they're gonna follow what's statutorily mandated and what KDHE requires as the delegated agencies to control that. If there's absolutely, if it's silent as to that, it's still within the county, so, you know, we would look at this if need be. But generally, most everything that we're talking about here is going to be regulated through KDHE.
And then the language, it needs to be down to at least 6 to 12 inches. Well, which one is it really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just need to say one or the other.
I agree. There's some tweaking there that does need to occur. I get the general intent. I have questions too, like with the peer review, the notification requirements, do you want all of that in the resolution, or do you want it contemplated in the resolution that there will be a peer review process set up and there will be various types of notification protocol established? Follow my question? Because if we can turn this into a 30-page document.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary.
His principle.
Yeah.
Because if it's 30-page document, John Q. Public is not going to read it or understand it.
Did you just say KISS?
I did.
I like that.
It's.
To be honest with you, I think you could have just taken, the resolution 2017-27, which is the current resolution that we have, and added brush piles to it and left it at that.
Well, the other aspect that we were very concerned about was the grassland fire index and how it limited burning when there was very small areas that were very high and above. So we're
So we added the quadrants.
quadrant system.
Quadrants would take care of most of that, I think.
It's an imaginary line, somebody's not gonna be happy. There's always somebody that's.
On the other side of the line, exactly.
Well, neither here nor there. I have, my territory is in all 4 quadrants.
Ouch.
It doesn't matter.
And Lester, you do talk about too, like, if we can get this adopted and get it pushed through and we can work for it for a year, see how it goes. If we have a lot of,
Pushback or
issues with it.
We will be evaluating it this, as we said before, when we did the original one, that would have been 2017-07. When we put that one in place, we had meetings for the first 3 years. We had a meeting annually for the first 3 years after that one was put in place. And so there was nobody coming, and everybody would, they would show up, it's just like, are there any issues? And everyone's just like, no, it's working fine. So I mean, that was the extent of our meetings. So, but it is a living document, and it is always, ever changing, ever evolving based on what happens.
So I'm just looking at Clark's deal on the resolution, where you said 2707. Or
2017-07.
That'll be cleaned up.
that needs to be cleaned up, right? Okay. Just making sure that got addressed, because I'm still seeing it.
This isn't in actually true resolution format yet either.
Okay.
And I have another suggestion to make it shorter would be to just outline, because it repeats itself a lot, so I would look at
Do it in one
condensing
single.
that and just have some definitions and.
As long as we cover the changes for the brush pile.
Yep.
Especially the 72 hours, that was the deal. The new website for the weather, weather.gov ICT fire. Quadrants, yeah, obviously the quadrants. So everyone seems very happy with the quadrants.
And then we had questions about the statutory authority and the penalties. That's something you need to check.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. That was the reason it was highlighted. Someone brought that up at the meeting.
And then there were some other questions that you had in there, Clark. Did you want to go over any of that?
Well, the statutory stuff, I have a question about how you can even consider fining somebody $15,000 for a misdemeanor that they don't even get a jury trial. On your schedule of charges, who determines what is reasonable and prudent and say, we've had this resolution since 2017. To my knowledge, nobody's ever been prosecuted for not complying with it. And
Sir, not that there hasn't been complaint filed.
I understand that. But
Okay.
that there's been complaints filed, but nothing's been prosecuted. Am I correct?
That I know of, yes.
Okay.
I know I've filed several
Yeah.
and whoever has not gone through with it.
I guess, so my question is, who determines, you got somebody that's burning something, gets out of hand. Who determines what you guys send out to respond to the fire? And
There's not gonna be any fine or anything if they have called in, followed the rules, have, water and stuff, manpower, equipment there, and it gets out of hand. There's not gonna be a penalty. Because, we understand that. The penalty comes in is if they don't call in, if they burn in 1,500 acres and they got a 5-gallon bucket of water in a gunny sack, that's where the penalties will come in.
right, and I guess, but my question is, who?
The fire chief, the authority having jurisdiction is the fire chief. Okay, 9 times out of 10, this is probably gonna come into play if we are in high or very high or above, which means one of the things that we already have preset is if we get a fire in very high or above, it gets an automatic aid response of 3 departments. Because as you well know, in the fuel loads and the stuff that we have, more in the eastern half over here, if we get a fire going over there, it's going to travel quickly, very quickly, it's gonna grow exponentially. So basically, the one that's gonna determine what goes out is the fire chief. And he's going to do what he has to do to eliminate the threat as quickly and most expeditiously as possible.
And what if it's my fire and what I'm gonna call for is, I'm gonna see what I have coming, how many people I have available, and then what is Florence sending, what is Lincolnville sending, and do I still need more resources or?
That's gonna be determined basically by the fire chief or the authority having jurisdiction is the one that makes that determination. There again, that rolls back to my previous comment that by the time you've attained, the rank of an assistant chief or a fire chief, you should have the wherewithal to make those decisions.
I'm curious, Mr. Dirks, who do you think should have that authority? Who do you think should make that call as to what resources are brought to that fire?
Well, I think you should, but I just don't wanna.
The landowner or whoever is not gonna get charged anything if they have been responsible, called in, have men and equipment.
We had this discussion at the public comment period. So I call in, I'm golden. I burn a brush pile that's the size of this room. It burns for 5 to 6 hours and it's done. Something happens, the wind changes, I'm still golden like all in, right?
I think we've addressed some of that in the resolution about wanting you to check on it in a timely manner.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know it's in there.
I guess the discussion we had is there's no set, what is reasonable, what is the required safety equipment? We had the discussion about brush piles and 3 different people had 3 different answers.
Exactly, and where we ran into this the first time with the previous resolution was if we said that if you're burning 500 acres, you need to have X, Y, Z. If you're burning 1,000 acres, you have to have X squared, Y squared, Z. Then if they have that out there and now it gets away from them, they're gonna come back and say, well, you can't find me because I had this and this and this per your resolution. That was one way that they looked at it back then. The other thing they looked at is now we are putting out an unfunded mandate. So you're going to burn 500 acres and we require you to have a spray rig with 500 gallons of water, and 4 people to handle this burn. So now I'm telling you, in order to do this, you've got to have this. You may not have it, so now do you have to go out and buy it? Do you have to rent it? Do you have to borrow it? So now I'm telling you that you have to do this and spend money to do this, so I'm creating an unfunded mandate. So those were the two thoughts that we had when we went to that.
And potentially liability as well, because if they say this is what you need and it turns out to be something different.
And it gets
then-
away, yeah, that's the other part of it.
I guess my concern is that, you know, what happens, we implement this and we get a new prosecutor and somebody goes and burns a brush pile and you guys send out what you deem necessary. This individual's prosecuted and their lawyer says, well, we've had this resolution in place since 2017 and they've never done anything. I just want to make sure that we have something that stands up for the county. It's reasonable. I mean, I don't want to get in the position where you guys get in the position of trying to prosecute somebody and say, well, and a lawyer eats this up and says, you know, you haven't done anything about this for
And see, that's the reason basically that we put down.
8 years, and now you're picking on my client. So I just wanna, I guess I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate here and trying to.
Part of the advice we got from other counties and other jurisdictions on fines and stuff like that was that we don't want the fine so low that it was cheaper. Well, I just let the fire department come out and put it out. The fine's only $250. That's much cheaper than hiring somebody to burn it for me. We were told to make the fine sting. I mean, that was their advice.
Now,
That was part of their advice.
I understand your concerns, so I will defer to you and ask your thought on what he's saying. Could this, the way it's written as it is, and the lack of previous prosecutions, could that come back to bite us?
Not necessarily. There's enough of a difference here. Plus, you've established some penalties and punitive measures in this that didn't exist previously. That's one of the problems you have. As to the earlier question, in terms of how you're gonna charge somebody 15 grand if they've never had a trial, they have a trial. What happens is this is an administrative form based upon certain factors that exist at the time. We feel we can levy this against you because you failed to comply in some fashion or form. The individual disagrees, then they hire that lawyer. They appeal. The appeal process from an administrative kind of penalty like this is to district court. Very much like if you think of planning and zoning, there are certain instances, the quasi-judicial form of planning and zoning is when a variance is asked for and someone arbitrarily or capriciously denies it, they can appeal and go to district court. This is kind of the same theory. Administrative functions in a county setting, we have the ability to assess. We do in a lot of ways. We assess fees, fines, costs in a number of different functions in various offices on this floor. If someone doesn't like them, their challenge is the next floor up. After, in some instances, it comes to you. I mean, you get to be a hearing body in some cases as well, but generally for this, it would go straight up there and say that's unenforceable or it's unconscionable, it's inappropriate, they were arbitrary in their administration of it. All of those things are challengeable. We haven't lost our constitutional rights just because we put this in place.
Just on a personal note, I don't want there to be prosecutions. I don't want that to happen. I want it's not the 90% that are the problem. It's the 2 or 3% who don't want to follow the regulations. And that's where the problem comes in.
What's funny is the whole discussion today is, we know you, you're all good, you know us, everything's fine. We're always thinking about the person that we don't know.
And to quote Commissioner Dalkey from the original one, the reason we had to do that, because 90% of our problems is usually caused by 10% of the people. And that pretty much holds true.
Or less.
Or less, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but does that answer kind of your,
Yeah, like I said, I just wanna make sure that we're,
well, and I understand your concern, because we, you know, we have, in all honesty, we have sent complaints forward. And there just has been no action on it, and that's, once we push it forward, it's out of our hands.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, here it is, we've met the criteria of the resolution, they failed to meet the criteria of the resolution or the guidelines of the resolution. So here's our complaint based on the resolution and what happened. Here is the fee structure that we are assessing for this. You know, go forth and do good things. And that's usually where it has died. So.
Be the same as the sheriff's department, the cases that are submitted and never.
Basically, like I say, we've worked with them and submitted everything forward. And
County attorney.
once it gets forward, it's just like it
It's out of our control to enforce it anyway.
So,
falls out of the hole, yes.
moving forward, I mean, is there any other items that needs to be redrawn into a resolution form?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that all of the elements of this were addressed, and any questions that you had based on what I'd seen were addressed before we go and finalize it into some kind of format that would be formal adoption.
And I definitely agree with Mr. Dirks that it does need to be actionable.
Yes,
You know,
I agree with that
absolutely
too.
needs to be and defensible.
And we had talked about, you know, instead of the fire chiefs having to go straight to the sheriff's office for a criminal prosecution, if there is a way for them to attempt to collect first, like through some sort of a civil process. And so,
And that's what I was referring to earlier. We can do that. We can establish it so that it is, as I said, it's an administrative form of penalty, and that's an operative word. It's not a form of punitive measure to the extent that the district courts might levy a fine if you commit an offense against a statute that's properly promulgated. This is set up at the county level. You have the authority to regulate health, safety, welfare. Okay? Counties, cities all have the ability to do that. And so that part is to me unquestioned. So when we establish what we consider to be reasonable penalties for that, those can be reviewed by a district court at any time that they're levied. Can they be done at the administrative level? Yeah, I think they can.
can we utilize in the resolution to be able to do it either way, or to do it, to give us the ability to?
That's kind of inherent.
you've got, under penalties and fees, B, a violation of the above regulations requirement shall also carry an assessed administrative penalties no less than $100 and no more than $500.
That word administrative is not by accident. That's meaning that that's done at at the level prior to it getting into a court system.
My question with that would be, how would that work if we were to do it ourselves? And the reason I'm asking is the departments in Marion County are all volunteers. The fire chiefs are all volunteers with the exception of Ben at Hillsborough. So is this something that Jonas Fire Chief, is this something that he can look at and he can do the paperwork that he has to do and move it forward to accomplish the same as us filing a complaint with the sheriff's office and then him moving it forward to the county attorney?
Or you can create the bureaucracy in this if you want to. We haven't done it so far, where you establish someone with the title who serves as the review agent instead of a prosecutor. It's administrative in nature, and as long as all the necessary residential elements are met, This is the fine. This is what, I shouldn't even call it that. This is the fee, the administrative fee that's charged for violating this resolution and the terms and conditions of it in terms of an open burn.
Okay,
So
so,
then someone can then say, and that individual, by the way, I've checked that, has the same level of immunity that law enforcement does. You can't really sue them for certain things unless they get into a different category of abusive behavior.
I have a question on what you're saying.
we'll let you guys.
So I'm trying to understand is, I'm sure the one who would review it then would be my city administrator.
Or would it be a fire person?
Yeah, oh, okay, so between me and Lester, we could put this person in jail for 6 months?
No,
Yeah, so I don't understand.
that is,
fine.
I don't understand.
These are a fee.
Okay,
This is not a fine, and I even misspoke a moment ago.
so our schedule of charges then would refer to, or would now become the fee that we've got.
No, it's already in section B.
All of that's gonna
Back up,
be cleaned up.
back up to penalties and fees.
4A.
Number 1, you got A, it's a violation, it's a misdemeanor, and B, it may be assessed an administrative penalty.
That's it.
Okay, so, well, in A,
So basically, the violator, if they're in violation, we send them a bill.
That's it. And we establish what that is, and it's been properly reviewed
Right.
at this level.
According to the resolution.
Yeah. Because if you look at what the legislature, they're doing it right now. There's 3 or 4 of these, one of those ones I'm gonna attend. They look at establishing various types of regulated administrative fees. You don't, when you go get your driver's license and you pay a fee for it, that's not determined by a court. And your license is suspended, it's not determined by a court. I don't even, as a judge, have the power to do it. I have to send it to Kansas Department of Revenue, Division of Driver Control. And they make that determination within that building, under that roof. Not any law enforcement agency, not any district court judge, not any municipal judge. No one in that criminal structure does that. It's all done at the administrative level. Can they appeal that? Absolutely. We establish an appeal process, a certain number of days within which they must perfect that appeal. Their first appeal is to an administrative law judge, who is again, not a district court judge. Then if you're not happy with him, now you get into the criminal system.
Okay, so, given that penalties and fees, violation of above regulations requirements shall also carry administrative penalties not less than 100, no more than 500. Severity of the violation consistent with prior to. Would that, so that means if we've got 2 departments out there with 6 trucks and 14 people, we're gonna get just the $500.
the
Or
way that it's written now.
the way it's written now, okay, so I was gonna say, cause can we go forward to the statement or to the schedule of charges? Cause see, on the schedule of charges, those are based on, basically, I looked at different, schedule of charges around the nation for what these vehicles charge for different stuff. And this is like, say, to run a truck, by the time you look at wear and tear, maintenance, fuel, and so forth, that's kind of how we determined that. And that was the reason we determined that in there, was because if we're out there for, 4 or 5 hours, we're gonna burn up, a fair amount of fuel, and not to sound, I don't wanna sound bad, but $500 split between 3 departments to take care of fuel for, for 6 trucks and 14 bodies is kinda, that's not gonna go very, very far. So how can we correct that? I
You
mean,
can establish an element of that is formulaic if you want, which is, we were out fighting this thing for 5 hours with X number of man hours involved, X number of pieces of equipment involved for X number of time.
which is what the schedule of charges of the personnel hours.
That's just to do.
Okay.
Then if that's still not sufficient, or, you're looking at go, okay, this isn't gonna work. This one needs to be referred to the county attorney, it needs to be prosecuted criminally. Then restitution
Okay.
kicks in, and you look at producing all of that information for a district court judge to make a determination of what's the reasonable amount for this person to pay based upon their negligence, inaction, violation, again, of the underlying resolution.
Because, I mean, the reason that I was thinking in this way is because you, even if, like, somebody does this, you know, they need to be held accountable, but do we necessarily need to refer them right to a criminal process?
Exactly.
You know,
You've got a two-tier process, but there's a continuum. And you have the ability to use them. They're not inconsistent with each other. If you choose to simply say, this was really, yeah, this was negligence, but this wasn't heinous in nature.
right,
We're gonna charge them, and this is what you have to get comfortable with. Is that gonna be enough? We're gonna get $500, but we made our point as far as we're concerned. Let someone know that the activity that they engaged in is impermissible, but it isn't so shocking to the sensibilities that you have a California fire and an entire community that's destroyed.
but do we have the ability, if the board is in favor of doing that, to make the fee schedule more, instead of the administrative
Yes.
fee of the 500, to make it mirror this
Yes.
or something like that, to where that's what we bill, and then if it is determined that there was criminal intent or criminal need to prosecute criminally,
Still
then
exists.
that's a different,
Yeah,
that moves on, instead of them immediately going to a criminal process.
exactly. Two tracks parallel to each other.
Who would make that determination on the criminal side of it? Is that something that we would look at on our side and say, or is that something that?
Well, initially, you would go ahead and say, wow, this was intentional. It was arson. Now, you just use the word. Now it goes to that building over there.
Okay.
Because now the prosecutor the county attorney gets involved and evaluates that accordingly.
But if we look at it and say, okay, this guy was told that he couldn't burn, but yet he chose to go ahead and burn, then that will fall under a flagrant violation that could be referred down track 2 as opposed to track 1.
Right.
But if it's just like, okay, he
Misunderstood.
he burned, he didn't have enough,
Didn't have the reasonable means to control it.
reasonable means to control it, so that would fall under track 1, administrative and so forth.
Correct. Or you have one, as you were discussing earlier, that he failed to monitor.
Right.
He started to, but then he got called away. He had something else that he needed to do. Someplace he had to be. He miscalculated how long it was gonna take for this to burn down to a level that he no longer had to be there.
You guys are on
Tried.
the committee, your thoughts?
Yeah, because there could be extenuating circumstances,
Exactly.
What
you're
maybe
trying
he
to
had
do-
respond to an emergency
Of his
you know,
own.
of his own, and
With so many of these, what you're trying to do is be all things to all people. You'll never be able to make it perfect. But that's why when people come in and tell me, I just want a one-page contract, something really simple, I sit there and smile and say, you bet. It isn't gonna be enforceable and I won't be responsible for it, but you can sure have that all you want. And so this gets to be the same thing, and I start to squirm when we start talking about, okay, let's add this, this, and this, and I'm not being critical of that. I think every point that's been made here is relevant. It's a question of how far do we go in terms of how flexible can you leave this and still have it be a living document that you have some room to make some decisions about as you go, because you don't know what you're gonna encounter,
Right.
ever.
yeah, every call is different.
Every case is different, and they're all case-by-case evaluations.
And I assume I have the flexibility, because I've done it, so I hope I do, is the man had a
Find
little
out.
small brush pile, and he was new to the county, he didn't know he was supposed to call in, and I talked to him nicely and a little firmly, and I'm sure he won't ever do that without calling in again, and so I didn't write anything up, I didn't,
Officer stops you in a county you haven't ever been in before, says, sir, this was a 45-mile-per-hour zone. He said, it looks like it's out in the country. I swear that had to be 55. Well, you were going 67 anyway, but be that as it may, he decides to give you a warning. Who made that determination? He did.
Right.
Same thing with you.
Okay.
We have enough to move forward with producing the resolution?
We have enough to produce a draft of a resolution that by the time I'm through, they'll need to look at and you will. To address all of these things,
Yeah,
yes.
In a
We
matter
could
of,
talk about this all day,
Yeah,
what
right.
Right.
a lot of what ifs, we need to move on, however we do.
but it's important. So that's the reason why I wanted it to go.
Like I say, thank you for your time. If there's any questions.
Do we have a time frame on that realistically, or are we out of this burn season for being able to?
Can we get this accomplished before 15 March.
I think so. I think probably what I'm envisioning is we do this, and then there's probably some form of a work session that's collective in nature, or that you, at least you guys are at. Because as we discuss this, you're gonna immediately, from past experience, say, well, what if? And what am I supposed to do with this? And how does this impact that? And that can end up being a second revision to this before, by the time it gets here, basically all that hopefully is been finally hashed out, very much like what you've already done, only now we put the legalese to it, I guess, as it was put earlier, yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you all for your
Thank
time.
you guys for
Thank
listening.
you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
They're also for working with the state fire marshal on, oh.
Good job.
I just gonna pat you on the back for it.
Thank you. I guess he is an elected person now, we don't have to.
Yeah,
I'm sure you want that.
I think that,
That's what I do.
ones that our county's respected, put it that way.
Thank you.
Why should I?
Thank you all.
We worked hard to get to that. So. You all have a great day.
Appreciate you guys.
How are
That may be,
All right.
that may be.
Oh.
Because I
No,
think
that's
this is stupid. This waste.
All right, so,
That is so stupid.
We already discussed the,
KP&F pretty
Yeah.
much, so I already crossed it off. We're into Brad's time, so I guess he'll just have to get going. Yeah,
I did want to ask a question about, you know, you all want to start if it's okay, Chairman.
yeah.
You want to start the process of planning, and so what do you want to do, and how do you want that scheduled? Is really what I need to know. So
And like what we talk about.
Strategic planning,
Roads in
Well,
1 week and
well,
top 3 priorities, and
and then you get to establish those.
then a lot of what I remember from the first one, I mean, I remember a lot of easels.
so you're
Right on the
looking at
easel.
some sort of a session, kind of like what we had Wichita State.
Yeah, and if it's too much of a deal, I mean, we can get somebody that does it. Just,
Do we
I
need
thought
somebody
maybe-
do we need somebody to facilitate it?
yeah, do you feel comfortable facilitating?
Depending on the timing, sure.
Okay, then that'd be my only
We
hang.
can give it a try.
We've had Wichita State here and paid them $5,000.
Right, and I was just trying not to have that expense, if we could kinda do it
We
in-house.
didn't have an administrator then.
Right.
It would appear that might be something.
Cost savings.
I think also just editorially, what I've seen when you look at those and you're weighing that, if you have professional staff, at least coordinate that and develop some kind of a agenda for you, you do end up in the long run saving a lot of time because you went through a lot of things beforehand. And then if you still feel like, we gotta get somebody to help us kind of get it down to the point that we make it manageable and functional, put some life to it tactically, then you can go ahead and spend that money. But I think starting internally is a good idea.
So the idea is kind of just prioritizing, you know, the
list.
moving forward. So, what kind of time commitment do you want to put into that, and when you want to start working on it?
We do the last go around, I mean, it was, I remember thinking, man, that's a lot of time, and then I was like, a lot of quiet time too, people are sitting there thinking.
That's right.
We did it over 2 or 3 different meetings. I mean,
Right, and we did
we
it
didn't do
this,
it all in one setting.
and one of them, we invited department heads for, right? So we collaborated with them too. Yeah, timeline does everybody, I'd like to go as soon as possible. That's just me.
We have an hour each meeting.
What do you wanna do, like a 2-hour session? And then see where you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably are going to need like an hour and a half at least, several different
That's
times.
what I mean, do an hour and a half session and then, okay, we'll schedule another one in days.
We do it 9 in the morning till whatever time we break and then come back on a regular commission meeting, something
I'm good with that.
as a plan with the time. That way if we need anybody, department head or something, they're available. Hopefully, we're or if we request them to be here.
I'm really good with that. I mean, that works. I know that's a struggle for you because you're trying to get stuff ready for here.
That's okay. What I need to look at is kind of the structure that they used before. And I don't know if I have a lot of, I'll have to look and see if I have some of that information from the. If not, then I know that there's other information that we can work on, so.
All right.
Any other feedback?
When target date, I know we don't wanna just jump into it next week, but be 18th.
Next week.
The 18th is a Tuesday.
24th. And give her a little bit of time to get resources.
Tina's got things already planned out for that week, probably.
Well, I will need to, yeah.
You can't just drop it.
Which one works better for you, 18th or 24th? You say you gotta go to school yet this week, so
Yeah, I do.
let's make it
You know, if you tear off that top page,
Yeah, I know. I just noticed it. I've got one in my office. I tore mine off.
you know, what I do, I'll go ahead and draw the next one, the February's at the top.
Ah,
We're
gotcha.
looking at two months
What
ahead.
do we have at the
Might get confused. What's that?
Always go to the top.
Okay.
24th at 10:30? Prior to our meeting?
I think we start at 9.
You gonna go that, you gonna go all morning?
I don't know. We'll go till we don't.
I don't care.
I know.
I just was thinking about an hour and a half session.
Our attention span.
Oh, well, we can make it fun. I'll make you get up and move a little bit.
9 o'clock the 24th.
Like musical chairs or whatever it takes.
Don't give me any ideas.
All right.
Okay. I put
So
it
what
on
do
there.
we wanna focus on first?
As far as,
I mean,
It's what the meeting's about.
well, you bring your own goals.
Projects.
okay,
And that's
Everybody
what
bring
it,
their own
everybody
ideas.
brings their own goals, and then the ones that meld right off the get-go usually will move to the top, and then other ones move down, and certain things don't make the list. It just allows you to expend your energy on things you can get done.
Yeah, and I'll try to find that information sooner rather than later. It won't be this week. But hopefully next week I can track that information down, kind of get a review of the process that we utilized before, and then I can send some like things out to you by email of things to think about before the first meeting. So,
Having a little advanced homework sometimes helps the person coordinating a lot, if they can get it to you and say, here's kind of the broad scope strokes of what we're looking at, what's of interest to you.
I do remember that. There was a bullet point that
Yeah.
was sent out to us that was basically,
They almost always start that way.
that required you to do a little homework, but
that's what I was getting at, I mean.
I got them right there.
I don't like any of them.
I know you won't. I really don't care.
This is going well so far.
Yeah, it's going great.
this is gonna be great. I think we might need help.
We're
Just
gonna
kidding.
go, we're gonna go old school Congress.
Everybody at least listen to everybody before you start chopping.
Okay, so I'm gonna get the sumo suits.
Yeah.
You guys know what those are?
Yeah, those things are great.
The balls.
Gonna need a bigger room.
Anyway, all right. So we're done with KPNF. Planning session sounds like we're gonna move forward. Yeah, it'll come together by the 24th. Commission discussion on hiring. Do we wanna,
We can put that to the end if you want.
yeah, we wanna go to executives together?
Whichever way you wanna do
That
that.
way we're not, Phyllis doesn't have to hang out in the hallway waiting on us every time.
Yeah, I was out in the hallway, so I walked in the middle of this.
We're just talking about strategic planning.
You just what?
We were talking about strategic planning, setting a date for strategic planning. That was all.
You're the one that walked out.
No. The,
This point, we're scheduled for the 24th, mid-morning,
Scheduled for the 24th for mornings.
mid-morning for morning type session, I believe.
yeah. Okay, so Brad, anything outside of executive?
No, both of these are the ones that I've got are executive session.
Okay, so much for trying to. Alrighty, since we got contract negotiation. Alright. Which one is that? Number 6, ain't it? No, that's real
Well, it
estate.
could be under attorney-client since we have Brad. So we could discuss contract negotiation under attorney-client privilege.
B2.
So I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item number 2, for consultation with our attorney in matters deemed privileged under attorney-client privilege, pursuant to KSA 75-4319B.
To discuss.
Contract negotiation, that's your purpose.
Discuss contract negotiations. With the board, Tina, Brad, for
15 should do it.
15 minutes, so return at 2:10, 2:11. Second by Kent. All in favor? 5-0. We will be back at 2:11.
Okay.
Okay. Out of executive session, no decisions. This time we need to go back in for.
Well, I'm gonna go back in on this.
Let's go back in on contract negotiation just because. I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss item number 2, consultation with our attorney. Or no, this would be, consultation with our attorney in matters deemed privilege under attorney-client privilege to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 75-4319B, with the board, Tina and Brad, for 10 minutes. We'll be back at 2:25.
11 minutes.
Second.
I second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
That would house all this stuff.
Okay, we're on.
Yeah, out of executive session, no decisions made. So this time, we're gonna need to go in for potential litigation.
10 will probably be too long, 10 minutes.
Okay. So I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss, item number 2, right?
Right, in order to discuss potential litigation
In order to
pursuant
discuss-
to.
Potential litigation pursuant to KSA 75-4319B with the board, Brad and Tina,
Under number 2.
under number 2. For consultation with our attorney in matters deemed privileged under attorney-client privilege.
And for how long?
For 10 minutes, so 2:30, 2:38. Second by Kent. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Back. Anything else?
No, that'll do it. Thank
Can
you.
we discuss hiring?
Okay,
Yeah.
everything's on.
Okay, out of executive session, no decisions. So yeah, I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss, hiring for personnel matters of non-elected personnel, pursuant to KSA 75-4319B 4319B, item number 1. With the board, Brad and Tina.
For our meeting, 5 minutes? Or
5 minutes. So, be back at 2:44.
Who's gonna second?
Oh,
Second it.
Somebody else can second.
Dave, all those in favor?
Aye.
I can make an error, Ram.
Okay.
Out of executive session, no decisions made. So I think that concludes. So we're down to commission comments. I just want to say under the commission comments, we want to make sure we're talking about new business. We don't want to talk about anybody's name or department in particular without having them here. So I caught a little grief, and I'm trying to just make sure that we keep it reined in. Commission comments?
Yeah, did we take action that the board chairman would attend the department head meetings? Was that an action?
No, it wasn't. And the department head meetings are held by the department heads, and they can decide if they want to invite somebody or not. We typically, in the past, we've never had any member of the commission present at a department head meeting. Over the past couple of years, we were approached, and the department heads were okay with the chairman attending, and so that has happened. And Jonah was invited to come and attend.
I just think that if we do it that way, that every commissioner should have an opportunity to do that. Whether that's on a rotational, basis or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know what you guys think. But I think it'd be good, once a year, twice a year, if we work in with the department head meeting. Otherwise, we're not.
Or bring the department heads into the board and have a meeting with them all like they do in some other counties. But you all had
Difference.
kind of said that you didn't want to do that at this time.
Because, as it was done prior, the commission, to me, the chairman probably should have made a report to us. That I never heard.
We'll have one next week.
No, monthly. If that or quarterly.
Yeah, we
You
just,
have a report on the meeting you went to this morning.
so that has never been a part of what we've done. It's mainly just been, we can always change how we're doing it or exclude the commission, but that's supposed to be kind of a space where people can just talk about what they need to talk about, so.
Stays in the room.
So we can uninvite Jonah if we need to.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, if that's causing grief. If
Yeah.
it's causing grief, I don't want,
Yeah, I went to an EMS meeting one time. They invited me and I got a whole bunch of questions I couldn't answer.
Right.
I could have, I told them I can't. I won't.
Well, I think the consensus is whoever's there is there to listen.
Yeah.
Not to come with
But they were asking
get a
questions.
bunch of questions, because you can't answer for the commission.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not what
no.
that's not what happens there either, so. And the majority of the information that we're discussing, I'm providing in my reports as updates to the board, so.
I'll tell you, I told them, Thursday is Kansas County Day at Topeka, and I brought that as information from a KAC board member. So, whether or not I wear the chairman hat or not is more of that's more than anything, that's what I brought to the table today.
Right. I'm saying anytime you want the department heads to come and have a meeting with you guys, that's totally
On the
fine.
agenda to make it proper.
Yeah.
Split up the.
And if you all think something different, let me know, you know.
One of my comments, I guess, would be is it's been over 15 business days since they rolled the truck, and have we gotten insurance to give us their thoughts? Is it totaled? Are we fixing it? Whose job is it to make sure?
So the
That's good.
departments report that directly to the insurance company. I can check on it.
All I was told was, well, they're waiting on an email for the last couple of weeks. And I don't think it's been looked at as of Friday morning yet.
Okay.
Just an update on our lake tractor repair. I got somewhat involved there a week ago along with Isaac and Gerald, and after Can Equip come, and I said for that kind of money, which estimated somewhere between maybe possible $12,000 or $15,000 worth of repair, to get a second opinion. I talked to my personal mechanic, does most of my work. The last thought was Robert Shippey, which is Road and Bridge, worked for Frank.
Hey, that's non-elected personnel, so we need to hold back
He
up.
came and looked at it with us. We determined to not throttle up was just linkage to the injector pump. We're sucking air on the suction side of the fuel line is why it won't start. As far as, not that everybody would know what an air-to-air system is, but that one of the sleeves is split, which would cause it to not run properly. I think at this point, we're assuming the tube in the fuel tank is where we're drawing air on the suction side of the fuel system. We need to re-sleeve that air-to-air, which.
You got that in your report.
Not
Well,
all-
similar, not all the
Not
details.
all the details.
Yeah.
Which we found, and I think parts are ordered to where they will possibly look at it within the next couple of days and get with us on.
That should be coming from Isaac, not you. To the administrator. That is her job, the bird dog, something like that.
Well, if you don't want my assistance, that's fine.
Well, it's
I have
just
a lot of equipment.
chain of command.
No,
So, all right,
this has all been through Isaac, so.
let's just close this up. You got anything, Clark? Okay. All right, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Kent. All in favor?
Aye.